The best part of waking up is my Max's Model cup. Well, I thought today I would be here with my co-host and overlord, Miss Honey, who I'm up early this morning because somebody wanted to be fed, and I thought I would do Mommy a solid by getting up and feeding her little precious sweetheart so she could sleep late on her anniversary. And now I can't go back to sleep. Wonder why. So, talking about kit models, I was chatting with Pete Vetri, who is familiar with that Lindberg kit, which, by the way, was originally by Marx. They made it sometime in the 50s, and he had mentioned that that was about $100,000 mold because partly, well, of course, it's a huge, very intricate kit with a lot of parts, but also the horses are extremely deep cut molds. And apparently when you cut a mold deep like that, it greatly enhances the cost. So that was a heck of a commitment from the make, wasn't it, Pumpkin? Oh, you got adorable dialed up to 11, don't you? Yes, you do. So that's part of the reason that that thing was, I mean, it was always a fairly expensive kit, which is completely understandable. You definitely get your money's worth. But the commitment for a company in the 50s to put out what is the equivalent of just shy of $1 million today. I did a conversion on $100,000 in 1959, and I think the kit was actually made before that. And it was $890,000, and that's just for the mold. And I know Marx is a big company, but $1 million bucks, $1 million bucks. And couldn't convert it to today's money, of course. But I look at the detail on some of those parts, though, and really, though I've had to fight with the bigger parts, which is, it's not uncommon for large parts to be a little cantankerous. And it hasn't, and don't forget, the one I had secondhand, some parts had been glued together and pulled apart, so if it was a brand new kit, it would probably be a crisper fit. But when I think about the work that went into creating that thing and the precision with which the parts fit, because overall, everything's a pretty good fit. Wow, it is impressive. I am duly impressed. And well, they keep repopping it because it holds up today as well as it ever did. Oh, you want me to, well, you like it right there on top of the noggin, don't you? Yes, my overlord, I hear and obey. I'm receiving your telepathic messages. So anyway, and when a company commits to making a kit, which of course every company's got their own process. Some companies, they go through these long, they do surveys and everything else, all this research, and you have companies that just kind of like, hey, that looks cool, let's make that. But, and of course there's a different level of commitment to every to kit. For example, we were talking about Black Sheep Corsair, and I think the second season was called Black Sheep Squadron. That's second season went downhill with the, never mind, kid with the long hair, and you guys saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Pappy's Lambs, oh my God, could that have been lamer? That show was pretty well, even though we loved it as kids, that show was pretty well detested by the guys who were in the squadron, to the point that Boeington pretty much got the Medal of Honor recipient and squadron commander just about got uninvited to a reunion, but he told the guys, look, I was broke, I needed the money, so they forgave and made up. But back to the models. When all you got to do is rebox an existing kit. Let's take the 132 Corsair, throw the decals from the TV show in it, give us a decal of Boeington's name, new box. Didn't even need box art, these photos from the show. So, cheap way, the show was, they knew it was popular amongst their demographic, so that was built money. What would have been cool? What they didn't do, of course, they put the zero and reboxed it, but what if they'd actually gone to the trouble of making a 1/32 scale zero made from a AT6 S&J, what they actually used in the show, because they didn't have any zeros. Now that would have been cool. And so some of you kit bash conversion monkeys can go out there and make yourself a get you a T6 and modify it into his Hollywood Zero. And if you really want to be hoo-ha about it, get you a couple of T6s and BT13s and convert them into Hollywood Vals and Hollywood Kates. I'm sure somebody's done it. I'm sure they have. So there's a conversion project that's more than I'm willing to take on. And because trust me, when Max brings out the razor saw, bad things happen. Not kidding, man, you know. Anyway, something like the Dukes of Hazzard. Oh yeah, was that? That was a 1970 Charger, wasn't it? Anyway, just yeah, let's pop it out in orange and give them a Confederate flag decal. Back before that was a thing, and make the General Lee. Yeah, they probably made some custom parts for it. I never actually built that kit. But but when you're doing something like Mr. T's van from the 18, maybe they could modify an existing kit, but I think they had to cut a whole new mold for that. And then you've got, well, like the Seaview. And of course, the show was already pretty popular. Now, I don't know when the Seaview kit was first licensed and put into production, how long the show had been on, or if it was done in pre-production. Because one of the things is and we'll talk about this some with some of the more Aurora stories, you know, the unmade kits and things like that, is some of the shows that they thought were going to be popular and they started cutting molds for kits, and the show kind of was meh. Sometimes they got past the pattern stage, actually had the molds cut and just decided, no, we're not going to sell enough. So a television show, if you're going to make a new tooling, that's a heck of a gamble. That'd be one thing if the TV company was to say, hey, we want to promote this show, we'll pay you to cut the molds, like used to happen with a lot of the car kit companies, like Johan, where they did the Chrysler Turbine car, and they were actually paid about $250,000 to set up the molds and everything, so they weren't out of pocket for it. Now that'd be great, but of course that's not the way it works now. Hollywood wants you to flip. Now Hollywood wants you to pay them royalties, which yeah, I understand, but that's whatever can work out with them. You know, when the Star Wars toys came out, they actually had trouble finding someone who would make them because it was an unknown thing yet. You know, the show hadn't come out yet, so no one knew what a big box office success it would be. So Kenner picked it up because they needed something to do, and yay, you know, lucky them. I think it was Kenner. Anyway, of course the MPC jumped on the models, but yeah, it's funny. Car companies, generally speaking, apparently they're real cooperative, and with model companies, and aircraft makers aren't. And I think, I know in the old days it was kind of, yeah, you know, promote our aircraft, sure, you can make models of it, here's some pictures. But I think I know why, especially nowadays. Car companies have very sharp, top shelf marketing departments, and they realize anytime you can get the name out there in any kind of positive fashion, do it. So they're pretty easy to work with, and plus a lot of people, probably half the kit models sold in the world are model car kits. So they realize that this is a great way to promote the car and promote our brand name to the average person, because the average person is the consumer that buys our car. An aircraft company is completely different. A major aircraft company, it doesn't sell airplanes to individuals, with rare exception. It sells them to governments, or it sells them to airlines. So they have a completely different attitude on PR. They're not interested in their name being on the lips of every American citizen or every potential, every person, because every person is not a potential buyer. And they're very covetous of their image, so they want to keep control over it. So I think that probably explains why for model makers, aircraft companies and car companies are completely different animals to work with. Well, on that, yes, I hear and obey. Excuse me, I have to go clean out a litter box. Oh, by the way, yeah, I know I said I probably wouldn't make one this morning, but since I got up early to take care of the kitten, what the heck. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you later.